Jarrell Miller says that he has envisioned himself knocking Anthony Joshua out in the 7th round. I'm going to quote Jarrell Miller here. He says, "Wow, there are so many ways. I don't like to make predictions, but I'm going to knock him out in the 7th. Hands down, I've seen it. I've portrayed knocking him out in the 7th round. The combination, I don't know what punch I'm going to hit him with. I think it's an overhand right, left hook to the body. But I do know this, my mental fortitude is way bigger and way better than his. This is everything. This is the changing point in my life, going to the next level." AJ was saying something before today. I'm not looking past him. He can't think about the future. But you don't want to look past anything. You want to focus on that date. You want to focus all your concentration on that man. This is what it's all about. I'm not looking past him, but once I beat him, I can help so many other people around me and countries and communities. I'm never looking past AJ. He's not going to be looking past me, but boy, he's got a butt whooping waiting for him. So those are the words of Jarrell Miller. Now, it got me thinking. Most people, understandably, are expecting Jarrell Miller to do what he normally does, which is march straight forward and try and walk AJ down. And I guess a lot of people feel like he's going to be walking into AJ's artillery and taking a steady beating. But Jarrell Miller, this might come as a surprise to some of you, actually has the ability to stick a move, or at least he used to have the ability to stick a move. Where's the evidence for this? Well, I actually saw this footage a couple of years ago, but for those of you who haven't seen it, it's available on several channels, and I think there's even some better quality footage than this, which has been uploaded to Twitter, maybe Instagram, which I've seen knocking around. This is obviously a fairly poor quality video in terms of the bit rate and resolution and what have you, but you can see that it's Jarrell Miller. All right, I'm not going to play it. You go to this person's channel if you want to see it. It's Jarrell Miller sparring Vladimir Klitschko. I'm going to assume that this was back in 2011, that this was back when Tyson Fury claims, or shortly before Tyson Fury claims he dropped Miller in sparring. But in this sparring footage here, you see a young Jarrell Miller in there with Vladimir Klitschko, and Miller is boxing on the back foot. He's not coming forward applying loads of pressure. He's actually looking quite slick, popping a jab, moving his head and circling around the ring. And I've seen glimpses of this from Jarrell Miller in some of his open workouts where he's hitting the pads. I've seen him, move his upper body a little bit and move around in spots. But back when Jarrell Miller was sparring Klitschko, I think Miller weighed about 245, 250 pounds. So we're talking about Miller 60 pounds lighter than he is today. Maybe close to 70, depending on what he comes in at for the AJ fight. So he's a hell of a lot lighter here. Therefore, it's not that surprising that he was able to move a lot more back then. And that's why I'm interested in how or what Jarrell Miller is going to weigh for the AJ fight, because that might give us some indication of the tactics he's going to use. Because again, we're all assuming, including myself, that he's just going to focus on pressure, pressure, pressure. But there is the possibility, given that he has this skill, and he does have back foot boxing skills, because we can see it here in his sparring footage. But it's whether he can still use these skills at the weight he's at now. All right. So there's a chance, maybe a very, very remote, slim chance, given how big he is now, that he might throw a curveball at Anthony Joshua and either come out boxing on the back foot, or at some stage in the fight, elect to use these tactics to maybe throw AJ off or just give him a different look. So this is something we have to consider. And again, we have to keep a close eye on Jarrell Miller's weight. Now, of course, if Miller was to lose too much weight, that could affect him adversely, because, the guy was weighing, 310 pounds for his last fight. If he comes in at 260, there's probably a problem there. You don't want to lose that much weight when you've been at 300 pounds for how many years? You don't want to lose it in a couple months, 40, 50 pounds. That's not good. So we have to bear that in mind. But if he came in maybe like 280. And by the way, Jarrell Miller weighed, I think, about 280, 290 when he fought Marius Wack. And he actually said he felt weaker in that fight. And again, that's because of the fact that he'd lost, let's say, 20, 25 pounds, or he was 20, 25 pounds lower than his usual fight weight. And it takes time for your body to adjust to that weight. It takes time for your body to adjust to lowering the calorie intake. You see? And so this is why weight loss, if you want to retain your energy levels, etc., it's better to do it gradually over a protracted period of time rather than doing it in a short space of time. Now, everybody's body is different. Some people are going to handle quick weight loss better than others. But generally speaking, I would say the majority of people don't handle quick weight loss that well. I mean, they can lose weight quickly, a lot of people, but they're going to suffer in terms of their physical performance. So we have to bear that in mind as well if we're looking at a Jarrell Miller who's going to come in and try and box a little bit. Because AJ's Achilles heel, at least when he was in the amateurs, was a slickster, somebody who could move their upper body, stick and move, etc. We saw that in the Erislandy Savon fight. Now, obviously, AJ did get stopped once in his amateur career, but that was long before the Olympics. He improved and he went on to achieve good things in the World Championships, in the Olympics, obviously. Even if you feel like he lost the Savon fight, and I felt like he lost the Savon fight, he did get legitimate wins over the Chinese guy whose name I can't remember. He also got a good win over Ivan Ditchko, who's an upcoming professional now, 6'9". And he beat Roberto Camarel in the World Championships or World Games. I forget what they call it. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that he fought in Azerbaijan, the World Championships. He got a legit win over Roberto Camarel in that tournament, because people always talk about the Olympics and they question whether he won against Camarel in the final. Well, go look at him in the World Championships or the World Games, whatever it is, against Camarel, because he fought Camarel previously. And AJ beat him legitimately there. There was no hometown cooking. It wasn't in AJ's hometown. He was in Azerbaijan. So, but when it came to the slicksters, like Erislandy Savon, and it's not like AJ never beat any slicksters. He did beat, let me not call Ivan Ditchko a slickster, but Ivan Ditchko is definitely a boxer. He's a big, tall, 6'9" guy who tries to kind of emulate Vitaly Klitschko, I would say, stylistically, moves around the ring, throws a lot of jabs and tries to keep it long. AJ dealt with him in pretty good fashion in the Olympics. But someone who's more slick than that, someone who's more skillful and faster than that, like an Erislandy Savon, he gave AJ nightmares, absolute nightmares. Can Jarrell Miller replicate something like that? He's definitely nowhere near as slick as Erislandy Savon, not in that kind of shape. And here's one thing, though. In the amateurs, you've only got 3 rounds to get things done. You know, I mean, there are some great fighters like Lennox Lewis. You reel them off your head. Vander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, where they lost certain fights in the amateurs because it was a 3-round fight. If it had been a 10-round fight or a 12-round fight, they may well have won. A good example would be Mike Tyson's 2 fights, which he both lost in the Olympic box-offs and the Olympic trials against Henry Tillman. Now, that was a very young Tyson against Henry Tillman there, but they were 3-round fights. He dropped Tillman in the first fight, and the second fight, he didn't drop him. But if he'd had 10 rounds to figure Tillman out, he might have got him out of there. Obviously, when they rematched as pros, Tillman was kind of on the way down, to be fair. And that was Tyson's first comeback fight after the Buster Douglas loss. He knocked Tillman out in the first round. But, be that as it may, you do have to bear in mind that in the amateurs, you've only got 3 rounds to get things done. So who knows? Maybe AJ would have caught up to somebody like an Erislandy Savon in a 10-round professional fight or a 12-round professional fight. Because Savon's really only a cruiserweight, Jarrell Miller, though, getting back to him, he's a heavyweight. And if he can show the kind of movement that he showed here against Vladimir Klitschko, in the sparring session against AJ, then maybe AJ will be surprised. You know, that's one of the things about boxing is physical, obviously, but surprising your opponent is one of the most advantageous things you can do. And I'll give you a couple examples of surprising your opponent with tactics. When Marco Antonio Barrera finally fought Prince Naseem Hamed, everybody expected Marco Antonio Barrera to just march forward Mexican style and try and chop Hamed down. Hamed was absolutely shocked, and I think most of the boxing world was shocked, when Barrera came out and he was sticking a jab and boxing Hamed at long range and counterpunching him. That shocked everybody, particularly Naseem Hamed. He was not expecting that kind of fight. He was expecting Barrera to just come straight at him. And Naseem Hamed was extremely effective if you would come straight at him. If you would come forward and attack him, he would have angles for you and uppercuts and straight lefts and straight rights. And Naseem Hamed was a tremendous puncher. I mean, say what you want to say about him. In terms of his punching power, I've never seen a featherweight. I'm talking about featherweight, not super featherweight. I've never seen a featherweight with that kind of punching power in my life. Incredible power. But he often relied on fighters coming at him. And that's what he expected from Barrera, because that's how Barrera had pretty much built most of his career, at least up until he fought Junior Jones. And when Junior Jones knocked him out, he tried to add a few wrinkles to his game. But certainly prior to that, he was known as the baby-faced assassin, come forward, the prototypical Mexican slugger. But that's what Naseem was expecting. Barrera flipped the script, gave him a totally different look, and got the win. Another example in more recent times would be Leo Santa Cruz in the rematch with Carl Frampton. That shocked Carl Frampton, the way Leo Santa Cruz came out and boxed long range. And that's something I actually spoke about pre-fight, because it was reminding me of when Prince Naseem fought Barrera, because Barry McGuigan was coming out saying Santa Cruz ain't going to box on the back foot. He can't box that way. He only knows one way to fight, to come forward. And if you remember in my pre-fight, I was saying, I wonder if Santa Cruz is going to flip the script here, because Frampton and his team are so certain that Santa Cruz is just going to come forward and do the same thing as he did in the first fight. They're so certain of it. Maybe Santa Cruz is going to use that against them. And that's exactly what he did. And they were unprepared for that. They put all their eggs, as we say in England, they put all their eggs in one basket. They hadn't prepared for a Santa Cruz actually using his height and reach and boxing on the back foot, you know? So long story short, will we see something like that from Jarrell Miller? I'm sure 99.9% of people are going to say hell no, because unlike Santa Cruz and Marco Antonio Barrera, Jarrell Miller is 300 plus pounds, you know? So you can't expect him to replicate what those guys did by way of boxing on the back foot. You know, maybe if he'd kept his weight down to how he was against Klitschko, it might have been a possibility. But at the weight he's at now, ridiculous. But hey, he might not do it for the whole fight. He might just do it in spots. He might not do it at all. I'm just throwing it out there because it's a possibility. He does have this ability in his locker. It's just whether his weight will allow him to do it for long periods in the fight. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think it's a wise move for Jarrell Miller to even try to box on the back foot against AJ? Or do you think he should just stick to coming forward and pressuring him? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. And oh, in fact, no, before I go, nearly went there. If Jarrell Miller does beat AJ, I'm not expecting him to beat AJ on points. I don't discount it as a possibility, but I would, in fact, no, he may beat AJ on points if the upset happens. I'm not predicting the upset, by the way, but if the upset does happen, yeah, maybe Miller on points, but if he stops AJ, it's going to be late. He says 7 rounds. I would say more like 9 rounds, 9, 10 rounds. and onwards, if he manages to stop AJ, or even a points decision, maybe out hustles him. But even though it's in New York, you have to imagine that the politics is going to be on AJ's side by way of the officiating, the judges, referee, all that kind of business. So yeah, anyway, now I really am going. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.